Since it came out 2 years ago, I think it's fair to say that my relationship with Tears of the Kingdom has been an interesting one. My levels of excitement for the game were highest before the game released, and since the game released, I found it difficult to get on board with the excitement and with the hype that Tears of the Kingdom generated. But it's fair to say that now in 2025, just 3 days after the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal and the Direct, my excitement for Tears of the Kingdom has never been higher. And in today's video, I want to talk about why my excitement's never been greater, but in fact, why your excitement should be high as well. So let's dive right into it on this week's video. Welcome back to the Zelda Realm YouTube channel. My name is Joe and it's so great to have you with me this week. If you don't already know, guys, at 1,000 subscribers I will be releasing a full retrospective of Tears of the Kingdom. So if you're looking forward to that, smash the subscribe button and let's try and get to 1,000 by the end of 2025. If you want to feature on this week's video, simply comment like these people have, and I will pick my 2 favourite comments from this week's video and you'll feature in next week's. So jump in, get on board like these people have here. Alright, so just a few days ago we got the hour-long presentation from Nintendo with a Direct that focused on all of the bells and whistles that were going to come with Nintendo Switch 2. One of the things that they talked about very briefly was the Switch 2 editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And immediately it stood out to me just how impressive these games look when they're up-resed, when they have got smoother frame rates, and it just made me think, wow, it is time to finally get excited again for Tears of the Kingdom. I did a video earlier this year as to why 2025 was the year to jump back into Breath of the Wild. And I'm now kind of going to jump back into that idea by looking at why 2025 will be the year to do a totally fresh playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom. I don't really talk about my opinion of Tears of the Kingdom on this channel very much. It's something I've been saving for the retrospective that will come out once we hit that 1,000 subscribers. But I think now's the time to kind of come clean, confess, let you guys know where I've been with Tears of the Kingdom ever since it released, all the way back in May 2023. So if I'm being perfectly honest with you guys, I did not embrace or love Tears of the Kingdom in the same way that I did with Breath of the Wild. And actually, when I reflect on it and think back as to why that was, in all honesty, it's probably because leading up to Tears of the Kingdom's release, I did a full new playthrough of Breath of the Wild. And so whenever I went into Tears of the Kingdom, the world didn't necessarily feel brand new. Obviously the gameplay systems that aren't the hand, so the weapon degradation, all that kind of stuff, they're all the same. And I've never been one for building mechanics in games. I'm not a Minecraft person. I don't know why, I just don't like, for me, I don't get very creative in my games, which is very much a me thing. I totally accept that. So I didn't really utilise Ultra Hand in the way that I think it was intended to be used. It was very much a let's get this done as quickly as possible. But I think the second reason as to why I think maybe I didn't gel with it was I was so desperate to avoid spoilers that I rushed through the game. So I was rushing through all the sections so that I could get the story and the ending without being spoiled by something online. And once again, I recognise that that's 100% on me. So maybe my head wasn't quite in the right place whenever I went and played Tears of the Kingdom for the first time. But one of the things I realise now that I've seen it in 60 frames per second with HDR is that Tears of the Kingdom has some sections where the frames really struggle and the Switch really struggles to run the game smoothly. I played Tears of the Kingdom on the special Zelda edition Switch OLED model. And while it was like the newest version of the Switch that we had, it still struggled to run some of the more densely packed areas in a smooth, buttery frame rate. But I think the one thing we should be saying is, for a system like that, and as old as it was, to even run a game as ambitious as Tears of the Kingdom was nothing short of a marvel. Nintendo, they are the masters at creating these games that beggar belief that this shouldn't run in any way, and yet it does, no problem, time and time again. But it was yesterday, at time of recording, whenever Nintendo Treehouse went live, and they had somebody playing Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, oh boy, I am so excited for this, because Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, they are both beautiful, beautiful games, and yet sometimes I think as Zelda fans we had to almost, in our minds, like excuse some of the frame rate issues and the dips, whereas now we see it run and it just looks amazing. Combat looks so smooth in 60 frames, the vibrancy of the colours. There was, in the original trailer, they had like over the Zora Domain area where you're up in the sky and the gravity's kind of lower. They showed that section of Link jumping and it just looked so gorgeous, and I thought, yes, now I am ready to go back. Not once since I finished Tears of the Kingdom have I thought to myself, I am ready to go back into this experience. But it's now that I've seen this, and I've pre-ordered my Switch 2 today, because here in the UK we've been able to pre-order our Switch 2s. Weird flex that, but fair enough. I'm like, I am ready. Get me to June, and the first game I will fully play on my Switch 2, I think, will be Tears of the Kingdom. So whenever I do the retrospective, it will be recorded in 60 frames per second, looking buttery smooth for you guys, looking in the way that I think the game was supposed to be played. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are two of the most critically acclaimed games that have ever been made. You know, for Zelda, it launched a new era for Zelda. These games were sold in scales that the Zelda franchise really hadn't seen in many, many years. And when we see it looking the way it does now in 2025 with the Switch 2, it's like, this is how these games were meant to be experienced. When I have that Switch 2 docked and I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, hopefully at 4K at 60 frames per second, that's going to be that moment where it clicks and it goes, this is one of the best games ever made. So, what's really the message of this video? The message is, I think I'm back with Tears of the Kingdom. I think a game that I struggled with, a game that I kind of forced myself through to get to the end, didn't enjoy. I think I'm ready to finally enjoy that experience. And for you, if you're in the same boat as me, it's time to get excited for Tears of the Kingdom again. We are so lucky as Zelda fans to have the experiences that we do. Whether that's going all the way back to games like A Link to the Past, whether that's Ocarina of Time, whether that's Skyward Sword, whether that's Wind Waker, which of course is coming to Switch 2, we have so many brilliant experiences for Zelda. But the fact that I can sit here now, knowing that there will be a Zelda game that runs in 60 frames per second, I did not think that was something I would be able to say 2 years ago, in no way, shape or form. But they've done it. Nintendo have actually done it. And it is time to get excited. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're excited for Tears of the Kingdom, get those comments down below. Let me know, what are your thoughts on the Switch 2 editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? Do you think the Zelda notes having voice memories is a good addition? Apparently there are loads of them. They showcase it for Breath of the Wild. Could be well worth getting into. And with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment coming out, do you think you'll go back to Tears of the Kingdom before a playthrough of Hyrule Warriors? Will you play Hyrule Warriors first? Let me know, guys, in the comments down below. And as always, I'll be back next week with more Zelda content. So until then, guys, have a good week, and I'll see you then.